The massive chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement. Representatives from 50 different species filled the circular room, their voices creating a chorus of clicks, whistles, and rumbling sounds. Today was special. They would welcome the newest spacefaring race to join their ranks, humans. Admiral Rex stood at the main display, his scaled skin reflecting the blue light of the holographic projections. As the Council's military advisor, he had reviewed the initial scanning data of human ships. What he saw made him laugh. "Look at these vessels," he said, pointing to the images floating in the air. "They're barely larger than our cargo shuttles." His tail swished in amusement as the other council members leaned forward to see. The scans showed human ships that were indeed tiny compared to the standard warships used by council races. While a typical council battleship stretched 3 miles long, the largest human vessel was barely half a mile in length. Council Speaker Thomas, a tall being with silvery skin, raised his hand for silence. "Let us not judge too quickly, Admiral. These humans have achieved faster than light travel, after all. With ships that small," Admiral Rex snorted, "they must be cramped like sardines in there. I doubt they have room for proper weapons or shields." The chamber's massive doors slid open, and the human delegation entered. Captain James Miller led the group, walking with confident steps despite being shorter than most aliens present. His blue uniform was crisp and professional, medals gleaming on his chest. "Welcome, representatives of Earth," Speaker Thomas said, his translator converting his words to English. "We are honored to meet your species." Captain Miller bowed slightly. "The honor is ours. Earth looks forward to joining the galactic community." Admiral Rex clicked his claws against the display controls, bringing up a larger image of Earth's defense fleet. "Perhaps you could explain your unique ship design philosophy, Captain. We find them quite fascinating." The way he said "fascinating" made it clear he meant primitive. Several council members didn't bother hiding their amused chirps and clicks. Miller's expression remained professional, but his eyes hardened slightly. "Our ships are designed for efficiency, Admiral. We believe that bigger isn't always better." "Efficiency." Rex laughed openly now. "Your largest vessel would fit in our main cargo bay. How do you expect to defend your territory with such tiny ships?" "Size isn't everything, Admiral," Miller replied calmly. "Humans have a long history of smaller forces overcoming larger ones through superior tactics and technology." A green-skinned council member waved 3 of his arms dismissively. "Perhaps against other humans, but you've never faced proper space combat. Our smallest destroyer could probably take on your entire fleet." Miller shared a quick look with his tactical officer, Lieutenant Mark Thompson. Both men kept their faces neutral, but there was a glint of something in their eyes. Perhaps amusement, perhaps determination. "We appreciate your concern for our safety," Miller said diplomatically, "but we're confident in our capabilities." Speaker Thomas tried to steer the conversation to more polite topics, but the damage was done. Throughout the rest of the meeting, various council members made barely hidden jokes about cute little human ships and space tugboats trying to play warship. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Admiral Rex approached Miller one last time. "A piece of friendly advice, Captain. You might want to redesign your ships to proper military standards before joining the Council. The galaxy can be a dangerous place for inadequately equipped species." Miller smiled, a small, confident smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Thank you for your concern, Admiral. But humans have learned that appearances can be deceiving. You might be surprised by what our tiny ships can do." Back on their ship, Lieutenant Thompson turned to his captain. "That went about as expected, sir." Miller nodded, watching through the viewport as their vessel pulled away from the massive council station. "Let them laugh, Mark. They'll learn soon enough why Earth believes in efficiency over size." He paused, looking at a coded message that had just arrived from Earth Command. "And judging by these reports about the Dominion's movements, they might learn sooner than they think." The human ship accelerated smoothly into FTL, its small size belying the advanced technology humming within its hull. Behind them, the Council Station's inhabitants continued their jokes about human ships, unaware that they would soon be very grateful for Earth's tiny fleet. 3 weeks after the Council meeting, Captain Miller stood in Earth's orbital command center, staring at a holographic display of galactic space. Red dots marked the movement of Dominion ships, and the pattern was clear. They were preparing for war. "They're gathering their forces here, and here," Lieutenant Thompson said, pointing to 3 different sectors. "Classic pincer movement. The Council worlds won't know what hit them." Miller nodded, his face grim. "And the Council still won't listen." "No, sir." Thompson brought up a recording of their latest communication with Council Speaker Thomas. "They say we're overreacting to routine military exercises." Admiral Rex was particularly dismissive. On the screen, Rex's scaled face sneered. "Your tiny ships must make you feel insecure, humans. The Dominion knows better than to attack Council space. Perhaps you should focus on making your vessels larger instead of spreading paranoid theories." Miller switched off the recording. "How are our preparations coming along?" "Right on schedule, sir." Thompson's fingers danced across the control panel, bringing up new images. The familiar shapes of Earth's ships appeared, but they looked different now. New modules had been attached to their hulls, and their sensor profiles had changed. "All ships have been upgraded with the new stealth systems," Thompson continued. "The Mark VI point defense network is online, and the AI targeting systems are running at 99% efficiency. The crews have completed their advanced combat training, and—" He paused as another officer rushed into the room, holding a datapad. "Sir, we've detected massive energy signatures from the Dominion fleet. They're moving." Miller straightened his uniform. "Earlier than we expected. Alert all ships. Begin Operation Shadow Shield." Across Earth's orbital shipyards, 12 vessels powered up their engines. To the Council's scanners, they would still appear small and weak. But appearances were deceiving. Each ship now carried technology that even the Council's best scientists hadn't dreamed of. In his quarters, Admiral Rex was enjoying a late meal when the alarms began blaring. He rushed to the command center, nearly tripping over his tail in his haste. The tactical display showed hundreds of massive Dominion warships pouring into Council space. "Impossible," he sputtered. "Their ships weren't supposed to be combat-ready for another 3 months." "The humans were right," Speaker Thomas said quietly. "We should have listened." The first reports of combat were devastating. The Dominion's massive dreadnoughts tore through the Council's defense fleets like paper. Their ships were bigger than even the Council's largest vessels, and their weapons were overwhelming. "Send everything we have," Rex ordered. "Every ship, every fighter." "Sir," one of his officers said hesitantly, "the humans are requesting permission to assist." Rex laughed bitterly. "Their toy ships? They'll be destroyed in seconds. But fine, let them see what real space combat looks like." On the bridge of his ship, the Swift Justice, Captain Miller received the Council's response. "Permission granted, though they don't sound happy about it," Thompson reported. "They don't need to be happy," Miller replied. "They just need to survive." He opened a channel to the rest of Earth's fleet. "All ships, this is Captain Miller. You know the plan. Remember your training. These Dominion ships may be big, but that just makes them easier to hit. Combat formations Delta 7. Execute on my mark." The 12 human ships moved into position, their small size allowing them to slit through gaps in the battle that the larger Council and Dominion ships couldn't utilize. To the aliens watching, they must have looked like insects preparing to attack dragons. "Sir," Thompson said, "Council Command is asking what we think we're doing. Admiral Rex says, and I quote, 'Don't throw your lives away trying to prove a point about your inferior ships.'" Miller allowed himself a small smile. "Send no response. Actions speak louder than words, Lieutenant." He watched as the massive form of a Dominion dreadnought appeared on their screens, its hull bristling with weapons. All ships, prepare for combat. Let's show them what humanity's tiny fleet can really do. The human ships accelerated forward, their newly installed systems humming with power. The real battle was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to learn why you should never underestimate human ingenuity. The Dominion dreadnought's first shot missed the Swift Justice completely. Captain Miller's ship moved with impossible speed, changing direction faster than the massive alien vessel could track. "Status report," Miller called out, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "Council forces have lost 30% of their fleet," Lieutenant Thompson reported. "Their formations are breaking. The Dominion is pushing straight for their core worlds." Through the main viewport, Miller watched as another Council battleship exploded. The alien ship had been beautiful, 3 miles of gleaming metal and powerful weapons. Now it was just another wreck in space, destroyed by the even larger Dominion vessels. "All human ships, execute attack pattern Epsilon," Miller ordered. "Remember your training. Stay mobile. Hit their weak points." The 12 Earth ships moved like dancers in space, weaving between the lumbering giants of the Dominion fleet. While Council ships tried to match the Dominion's brute force, the human vessels slipped through gaps and blind spots. In the Council command center, Admiral Rex watched with his mouth open. How are they moving like that? Ships that small shouldn't have such powerful engines. "Sir," one of his officers called out, "the humans are targeting the Dominion's weapon ports with some kind of new missile system." On the screens, they could see small objects launching from the human ships. The missiles seemed to think for themselves, dodging defensive fire and finding tiny weaknesses in the Dominion shields. "Impossible," Rex whispered, but he couldn't deny what he was seeing. Back on the Swift Justice, Miller's crew worked with practiced efficiency. "Enemy flagship detected," Thompson announced. "Their shields are strong, but we found a pattern in their frequency." "Good." Miller studied the tactical display. "All ships, focus fire on these coordinates. Time to show them what our point defense systems can really do." The human fleet moved as one, their small size now proving to be a massive advantage. While the Dominion's huge ships struggled to turn and aim, the Earth vessels danced around them, striking with surgical precision. "Sir," Thompson's voice was excited now. "Their flagship's shields are failing." The massive Dominion vessel, easily 6 miles long, tried to retreat, but it was too slow. The human ships pressed their advantage, their advanced targeting systems finding every weakness. "By the stars," Rex breathed, watching from his command center. "Those tiny ships are actually winning." The Dominion flagship's shields collapsed. Miller gave the order, and his fleet struck as one. Their weapons might have seemed small to the Council races, but they had been designed for efficiency, not size. The massive alien ship cracked apart under their assault. "Dominion forces are pulling back," Thompson reported. "They're retreating from this sector." A cheer went up from the human crew, but Miller kept his focus. "Casualties. 2 of our ships damaged, but their crews are safe. No losses." Thompson paused. "The Council fleet. They've lost over 60% of their forces." Miller opened a channel to the Council command center. "Admiral Rex, we suggest regrouping your remaining ships behind our defensive line. We can protect your retreat." There was a long pause before Rex responded. His voice had lost all its previous mockery. "Understood, Captain. And thank you." As the battered Council ships fell back, Miller turned to his tactical officer. "Send word to Earth. Tell them the Dominion is stronger than we expected. We'll need the rest of the fleet." "The rest?" Thompson smiled. "They thought these 12 ships were impressive. Wait until they see our main battle group." Miller allowed himself a small grin. "Let's hope the Council has learned not to judge ships by their size. Lieutenant, get me a damage report and prepare for pursuit operations. The Dominion may have started this fight." He looked out at the battlefield, where the wreckage of massive alien ships floated alongside the untouched forms of Earth's tiny fleet. "But we're going to finish it. The swift Justice turned smoothly in space, its small form belying its true power. The first battle was over, but the real war was just beginning, and humanity's fleet, no matter its size, was ready. Admiral Rex stood in stunned silence as he watched the recording for the third time. The battle footage showed Earth's ships performing maneuvers that should have been impossible. A council analyst was explaining what they were seeing. Their hulls are lined with some kind of advanced energy diffusion system, the analyst said, pointing to close-up images of the swift Justice. When Dominion weapons hit them, the energy is absorbed and redirected. We've never seen anything like it. But they're so small, Rex muttered. Where do they fit all this technology? That's the brilliant part, sir. The analyst brought up a detailed scan. Humans build inward, not outward. Every cubic inch of space is used. Their ships aren't just vessels, they're technological marvels. On the Swift Justice, Captain Miller was conducting a very different kind of briefing. His ship's holographic display showed the positions of the remaining Dominion forces. They're adapting to our tactics, Miller explained to his crew. So we'll show them something new. Lieutenant Thompson, demonstrate the Hydra Protocol. Thompson pressed a series of commands. The ship's outer hull began to shift, panels moving and realigning. What looked like decorative elements transformed into additional weapon ports and sensor arrays. Our ships were designed to evolve mid-battle, Miller continued. The Dominion thinks they've learned our capabilities. They're wrong. In the Council observation room, alien diplomats gathered to watch the human fleet prepare for the next engagement. Many who had once laughed at the small ships now leaned forward with intense interest. Look at their formation, one alien whispered. Those aren't random positions. It's like they're forming a net. The main screens showed the approaching Dominion fleet. They had changed their tactics, spreading out their massive ships to avoid clustering together. They thought this would make it harder for the human vessels to concentrate their fire. They were wrong. All ships, initiate Hydra Protocol, Miller ordered. Execute on my mark. The 12 human ships suddenly split apart, their formations shifting like a living thing. What looked like simple hull plates reconfigured into bristling arrays of smaller weapons. Each ship now projected a web of defensive energy fields, linking with the others to create a complex network. By the stars, Rex breathed, watching from the Council station. Their ships, they're transforming. The Dominion fleet opened fire, their massive weapons lighting up space. But the human ships were already moving, their linked defense grid absorbing and channeling the energy. Thompson's hands flew over his console. Network is stable, Captain, he reported. All ships reporting ready. Eye-targeting systems at full power. Miller nodded. Show them what we can really do. All ships, open fire. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for years to come. The human fleet moved as one organism, their smaller size allowing them to execute maneuvers that the larger ships couldn't match. Their transformed weapons fired in perfect synchronization, guided by advanced AI systems that could predict and counter enemy movements. Their coordination is perfect, the Council analyst said in awe. Each ship covers the other's blind spots. There are no wasted movements, no wasted energy. A massive Dominion dreadnought tried to push through the human formation. 3 Earth ships immediately broke off, their reconfigured hulls presenting new weapon arrays. They struck from angles the larger ship couldn't defend, their precise shots slipping through gaps in its shields. This is what we tried to tell you, Miller said over an open channel to the Council station. Size isn't everything. Efficiency, adaptability, and coordination are what win battles. The Dominion ships began to retreat again, their confident advance turned into a desperate withdrawal. They had expected to face the same kind of warfare they knew, huge ships trading massive broadsides. Instead, they found themselves being taken apart by an enemy they could barely track. I think I owe you an apology, Captain, Rex said over the comm. We clearly had much to learn about warfare from Earth. Miller allowed himself a small smile. The lesson's not over yet, Admiral. This was just the demonstration. Wait until you see what our ships can really do when we stop holding back. The Council's war room was packed with representatives from every major species. All eyes were fixed on the central hologram showing the latest battle footage of Earth's ships in action. Admiral Rex stood at the front, giving a presentation that would have been unthinkable just weeks ago. The humans don't just build smaller ships, he explained, his earlier mockery replaced with respect. They build smarter ones. Watch this sequence again. The replay showed 3 human vessels taking on a Dominion heavy cruiser. The Earth ships moved in perfect harmony, each maneuver flowing into the next like a deadly dance. Their eye-targeting systems don't just aim weapons, Rex continued. They predict enemy movements, calculate optimal attack angles, and coordinate between ships in real time. While we were laughing at their size, they were perfecting warfare on a level we never imagined. In space, the Swift Justice led another attack run. Captain Miller watched as his ships executed a new strategy they'd been practicing. Status report, Lieutenant. The Dominion is bringing in their reserve fleet, Thompson replied. 40 capital ships, including their new super dreadnought. They're trying to overwhelm us with pure firepower. Miller nodded calmly. Just as we expected. Signal the fleet. Initiate Operation Mosquito. The human ships suddenly scattered, breaking into pairs. To the massive Dominion vessels, they must have looked like insects fleeing before giants. But Miller knew better. All ships, activate your new stealth systems, he ordered. Remember your training. Hit and fade, just like we practiced. The Earth vessels seemed to shimmer and partially fade from view. They didn't become completely invisible. That was impossible in space. But their energy signatures became confused and distorted, making them incredibly difficult to target. In the Dominion flagship, the alien commander was growing frustrated. How can we not hit them? They're right there. His weapons officer struggled to explain. Their stealth technology. It's like nothing we've seen. Our targeting computers can't get a solid lock, and they're so small and fast. A series of explosions rocked the Dominion ship. 2 human vessels had slipped through their defensive screen, striking with precision before vanishing again into the chaos of battle. Back in the Council war room, the alien representatives watched in amazement. They're treating those huge ships like practice targets, one whispered. Humanity has a saying, Rex told them. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. We thought size meant power. The humans proved that precision and skill matter more. On the Swift Justice, Miller received a priority alert. Sir, Thompson called out. The Dominion Super Dreadnought is powering up its main weapon. Energy readings are off the charts. Perfect. Miller's calm never wavered. All ships, execute maneuver Delta 7. Show them why being small is an advantage. The human fleet moved as one, forming a complex pattern that the larger Dominion ships couldn't hope to match. When the Super Dreadnought fired its massive weapon, the Earth vessels slipped through gaps in the energy beam that ships of normal size could never have navigated. Sir, Thompson reported with a hint of pride. No hits. The beam was too large and slow to track our ships, and now their weapon needs 10 minutes to recharge. 10 minutes. Miller allowed himself a small smile. That's 9 minutes more than we need. All ships, attack pattern Omega. Target their power distribution nodes. The human fleet struck like a swarm of deadly hornets, their small size allowing them to get close to the Super Dreadnought's hull. Their weapons might have been compact, but they had been designed to strike with surgical precision at key weaknesses. In the Council chamber, Rex watched the massive Dominion flagship begin to break apart under the human assault. They've revolutionized space warfare, he admitted. Everything we thought we knew about ship design and combat tactics, the humans proved us wrong. An aide rushed in with new reports. Sir, the Dominion is pulling back across all sectors. They're retreating. Rex looked at the battle footage one last time, watching the tiny human ships run circles around their massive enemies. "They're not retreating," he corrected. "They're running for their lives. And thanks to humanity's tiny fleet, they're right to do so." The massive space station Nexus 7 hung in orbit around a dying star. It was the most important strategic position in this sector of space, and the Dominion knew it. They had gathered their remaining forces for one final battle. Over 200 of their largest warships formed a wall of metal and energy shields around the station. "That's a lot of firepower," Lieutenant Thompson said, studying the tactical display on the Swift Justice's bridge. "They're desperate to hold this position." Captain Miller nodded. "With good reason. Whoever controls Nexus 7 controls the supply lines for this entire sector." He turned to address his crew. "The Council fleets are still rebuilding. It's up to us." Earth had sent reinforcements. Their fleet now numbered 30 ships, still tiny compared to the wall of Dominion warships ahead of them. But Miller knew size wasn't everything. "Sir," Thompson reported, "Dominion commanders are broadcasting on all frequencies. They're laughing at us." "Let them laugh," Miller replied. "Lieutenant, what's the status of that solar prominence we've been monitoring?" Thompson checked his instruments. "The star will eject a massive burst of plasma in approximately 12 minutes. If someone were to use that burst to mask their approach," he smiled. "Well, not many ships are small and agile enough to ride a solar storm." Miller opened a channel to all Earth vessels. "All ships, prepare for Operation Solar Wind. This is what we've been training for." The human fleet split into 3 groups. The Dominion commanders watched with amusement as the tiny ships seemed to scatter randomly. Their massive vessels held position, energy weapons charged and ready. "Now," Miller ordered as the star erupted. A massive wave of superheated plasma burst from the dying sun's surface. The human ships didn't run from it. They dove straight in. In the Council observation post, Admiral Rex watched with wide eyes. "They're insane. No ship can survive inside a solar prominence." But the human vessels had been designed for exactly this kind of maneuver. Their small size and advanced heat shields allowed them to literally surf the wave of plasma, using it as cover to approach the Dominion fleet. "All ships activate solar canalian protocols," Miller commanded. The hulls of the Earth vessels began to shimmer, their energy signatures blending with the solar interference. To the Dominion sensors, they became nearly invisible. The Dominion commanders realized too late what was happening. By the time they spotted the human ships emerging from the plasma wave, it was too late. The Earth fleet had split their formation into gaps that would have been too small for normal warships to utilize. "Target their shield generators," Miller ordered. "Show them why being small means being precise." The human ships struck like lightning, their advanced targeting systems finding weak points that larger vessels could never have exploited. Each shot was carefully calculated, each movement precisely planned. "Their shields are failing," Thompson reported excitedly. "The solar radiation is interfering with their backup systems." A massive Dominion flagship tried to turn and engage the Swift Justice, but the human vessel was too quick. Miller's ship darted between the giant vessel's weapon arrays, finding blind spots that its designers had never thought to protect. "Status report," Miller asked as explosions bloomed across the Dominion line. 15 enemy capital ships disabled," Thompson replied. "Their formation is breaking. They never expected anyone to use a solar storm as a weapon." The battle reached its peak as the remaining Dominion ships tried to regroup. But the human vessels were everywhere at once, striking from impossible angles, using their small size to maximum advantage. "Sir," Thompson called out, "the Dominion Admiral is sending a signal. They're surrendering." The massive alien ships began powering down their weapons. On the Council observation post, Rex watched in amazement as the mighty Dominion fleet was brought to its knees by ships they had once mocked as too small to matter. "Victory confirmed," Miller announced calmly. "All ships report minimal damage." "Sometimes, Lieutenant, The best things really do come in small packages. The swift Justice turned gracefully in space, its tiny form casting a long shadow across the defeated Dominion fleet. The battle for Nexus 7 was over, and humanity's tiny ships had proven once, and for all that size meant nothing compared to skill, strategy, and the courage to attempt the impossible. The Galactic Council chamber looked very different now. Where once there had been laughter and mockery at the sight of human ships, now there was respectful silence as Captain Miller stood at the center of the room. The victory celebration was in full swing, but this moment was about more than just winning a war. Admiral Rex stepped forward, his scaled form moving with deliberate ceremony. "Captain Miller," he began, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber, "I owe you and humanity the deepest apology. We judged your ships by their size, and we were monumentally wrong." Miller nodded gracefully. "Apology accepted, Admiral. Though I must admit, your initial reaction wasn't unusual. Most species do laugh when they first see our ships." "Not anymore," Rex replied with a small smile. "The footage of your fleet riding the solar prominence to victory has become the most watched recording in Council history. Every military academy in known space is studying your tactics." Lieutenant Thompson, standing beside his captain, gestured to the main display where technical diagrams of Earth's ships were being shown. "We've agreed to share some of our basic design principles with the Council races," he explained, "though I suspect it will take time to adjust to the new way of thinking." "Indeed," said one of the Council engineers, studying the diagrams with fascination. "Your entire approach to ship design challenges our fundamental assumptions, building inward instead of outward, focusing on efficiency over size. It's revolutionary." The chamber's doors opened, and a new group of aliens entered. They were representatives from a species seeking to join the Council, their first contact since the war ended. Miller noticed something interesting about their ship designs on the display screen. "Their vessels," he said quietly to Rex. "They're smaller than standard Council ships." Rex nodded. "They saw what your fleet accomplished. Already, several species are experimenting with more compact designs. The age of building ever larger ships may be coming to an end." The Council speaker stood, raising his hands for attention. "Today marks a new era for our civilization," he announced. "The Dominion's defeat has taught us many lessons, but perhaps the most important is this: true strength lies not in size, but in innovation, efficiency, and courage." He turned to Miller. "Humanity's tiny fleet has changed the face of warfare forever. But more than that, you've changed how we think about technology itself. The Council officially recognizes Earth as a leading voice in military and technological advancement." Miller stepped forward to accept the official recognition, but his mind was already elsewhere. The Swift Justice and her crew had earned a well-deserved rest, but there were still stars to explore, new challenges to face. "Captain," Thompson said quietly, showing him a datapad, "we're receiving reports of unusual activity in the outer sectors, possibly a new species and their ships." He paused meaningfully. "They're even bigger than the Dominions were." Miller smiled. Some lessons, it seemed, had to be learned firsthand. "Send word to Earth Command. Tell them to prepare the fleet." "And Lieutenant?" "Yes, sir. Make sure our visitors get a good look at our tiny ships when we leave. I have a feeling they'll be particularly interested in their size." As the celebration continued around them, Miller gazed out at the stars through the chamber's massive window. In the distance, he could see the Swift Justice and her sister ships in formation, small against the backdrop of space, but now recognized as among the most formidable vessels in the galaxy. Rex joined him at the window. "You know," the Admiral said thoughtfully, "I used to think those ships of yours would fit in our cargo bay. Now I wonder if our cargo bay is worthy of holding them." Miller laughed. "The size of the ship doesn't matter, Admiral. It's the size of the ideas inside it that count." Together, they watched as a new alien ship approached the station, another species coming to join the Council. Its design was sleek, efficient, and noticeably smaller than traditional council vessels. The age of the giant ships was over. The future belonged to those who understood that bigger wasn't always better. A lesson taught by humanity's tiny fleet that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come.